In this bowl, I have 2 cups of flour and 1 tablespoon of sugar. I'm using self-rising flour and not all-purpose flour. That's what I use to bake my biscuits. The next step will be cutting up the margarine, and I do use margarine. I use Blue Bonnet. Cutting that up into cubes and adding that to my flour mixture. And this is how I cut my margarine. I have cut the margarine into cubes. It's cold, and I've added it to the flour mixture, which is again self-rising flour, 1 tablespoon of sugar. And now I'm going to use my pastry blender or pastry fork. I think it's called a pastry fork or pastry knife to cut the margarine into the flour. That's the next step. This is what your flour should look like when all of your margarine, in my case margarine or butter, has been cut into the flour. Should look like grains of rice or sandy in texture, because the margarine has been cut into the flour and has wrapped itself around the flour to make little beads. The next step is to add your liquid. In my case, my liquid is 2% milk, 1 cup, and it's cold. All of your ingredients that you add to your biscuits should be cold. Some people even put their flour in the refrigerator to have it cold. And the bowl that they're using to make their biscuits in, they make that cold. But most of the time, I make biscuits in the morning, and I have not put the bowl or the flour in the refrigerator. But I make sure my margarine and my milk are both cold when I add them. So I'll be adding the milk next. Excuse me. This is what my dough looks like after I've added. This is what my dough looks like after I've added the 1 cup of milk. It's still a little powdery, but if I squeeze it together, it will form a ball. Next, I'm going to put it on my surface and knead it 10 times. Hopefully, I can show you while I'm kneading it. I'm recording this on my phone, and I'm the only one up right now. So, I'll be back in a moment. And now I am kneading my dough. I have my surface floured. I'm only kneading it 10 times. 1, 2, 3, flour my hands a little more, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I found this recipe and I adapted it for my needs from a Betty Crocker cookbook. I think it was the Betty Crocker baking powder biscuit recipe in a Betty Crocker cookbook that I bought some years ago. I used it so much that the book completely fell apart. So I don't even have the book anymore. So I don't know what year that one came out. It was one of the red books from Betty Crocker. And you know there are many different years that book is published. So I don't remember what book that when I bought it. I think it was in the late 90s or early millennium. I'm really thinking around 98 or 99 that I bought that book. And it fell apart. But I adapted the recipe from that. And I don't use baking powder because I use self-rising flour instead of all-purpose flour. So the next thing is to get a cutter, whatever you choose to cut your biscuits with. I use an old glass, and I cut my biscuit with that. It was not an old glass. I use a plastic glass. These glasses come in the Crystal Oats oatmeal free, so I use that to cut my biscuits. It's a good biscuit size. So I just cut the biscuit out. I neglected to tell you that my oven has been preset to 425 degrees. It's been preset and it is preheating to 425. They do make biscuit cutters, and most of the time that's what I use. But I can't find it this morning. Usually when I use it and it's washed, it gets put back in a different place when one of the kids do the dishes. And they don't tell me where they put it, and I can't locate it this morning. And I want to get these biscuits done because today is Resurrection Sunday. So we are going to church today and having Holy Communion. So I want to make breakfast and have the biscuits out of the way. Out looking for them. Usually I can get about 10 good sized biscuits out of this recipe. Then I'll bake it in the oven until they're done, which takes about 15 to 25 minutes depending on the warmth of the day. I did have to add more liquid to get the dough to the consistency that I wanted the dough to be. Today is a little drier. If it's a moist, damp day or humid day, you won't use as much liquid. You may use less. So this time I have 2, 4, 6, 8, 9 biscuits out of the 2 cups of flour. And I'm going to put them on a baking sheet. This is my baking sheet. It's old. It's been well used. Spread them apart. I usually put them 2 in a row for this size baking pan. For this size baking pan, I put 2 in a row and have 2 columns of biscuits. And I'm going to bake them at 425 until they're done. I'll switch this one. This one's the excess. So I'll bake them 425 until they're done. And I will come back when the biscuits are done and show them to you. These are my finished biscuits. They have risen. They're brown on top. The only thing I'll do next is add some melted margarine and brush them down and add margarine to the inside. I hope you enjoyed this demonstration. Thanks for watching.